come in, but
yeah,
they can join. Good. Yeah, Khaled, welcome to doing this in our Value Match certified practitioner community. For those that are participating, Khaled is one of our practitioners, and we've been talking on and off a little bit about the Enneagram, and I really liked the way that he approached that and the way that he connects that to spiral, as far as I've seen that from him so far. Which is not a lot, but from what I've seen, I really liked it. So that's why I've invited Khaled to present his ideas and his work to this community. Khaled, how do you want to do it with questions? Do you want people to interrupt you? Do you want people to type them into the comment fields?
I actually would like to give initially just one way without interruptions.
Yeah.
I just present it, and then people can just either take notes as they go on or type the questions in the chat. And I would ask you, okay, if there are questions that you can follow in the chat. And then at the end, I'll try to go on for an hour or so. And then at the end, we can open for Q&A, and people can either raise their hands and ask, or you can feed me in with the questions that went on in the chat.
Good. Okay, yeah. No problem. Okay, good. Then I'm not going to let everybody introduce themselves, which we've done before, but I really like to use the time. And some of you know each other, others don't, but we all sort of connected somehow to Value Match. And maybe when you talk, it's good to say your name and where you're from. That's nice. And yeah, so the floor is yours, Khaled.
Okay, I'll just start my share the screen, and then start myself here. Okay. Zoom is very nice in this. Regardless of how much you prepare the screen, once you share, everything has to be reset again. So, almost there. Oh, can't find the participant screen. There it is. And I am ready. So, hello everyone, and lovely to be with you here. Thank you so much, Oke, for inviting me to give this session. Usually on these online sessions, as many people open the cameras is always nicer, so that you feel you're talking to the audience. So thank you, Selma and Marlo, for opening your cameras. And but I do understand if someone cannot open. We're entering a new era of education, I believe, and I'm always saying that the faster people adopt the new ways of education, the more they will flow into the future. We see schools still resisting the old ways, and I don't think we're going much back anymore. So, the spiral teaches us that very well. So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Khaled ElSherbini. And in order to introduce the topic well enough, I like just to give a little background, just a few minutes about myself, because my journey into the Enneagram and the spiral is actually part of the research that came out. Also, I also call it a bit of my vanity slide, where I show off what I know. So it it starts us on a common ground. So originally, I'm a trained mechanical engineer. I have a PhD in mechanical and aerospace engineering. I was initially a satellite design engineer. We designed and launched the first Egyptian satellite a few years ago. And I also did a master's degree in environmental sciences. I was the lead environmental scientist and renewable energy scientist in Egypt for a while. I was actually at one time during our revolution, like 10 years ago, nominated for a cabinet in energy at that time. I have an MBA in strategic management and innovation technology management. I was building research and development departments in Egypt in the biggest companies. So these first degrees, among other stuff, show that when I look back now at my journey, it was actually a journey of seeking. seeking meaning, seeking value. And I was always blessed that I had the resources and the time and the energy and the health, so that every branch I would hook onto, I would, as I call, bring it to the end. So mechanical engineering, okay, all the way until I get my doctorate. And I remember very well the day I got my doctorate in my hands and I looked at it and it's like, that's it? All these years was for this paper that I'm holding in my hand? Okay, maybe it's in something else, renewable energy and environmental sciences. And I take that also to become the lead scientist, and then, no, that's not it. And then I take my MBA and I go into corporate and I start trying to apply research and development. No, that's not it. And all that took me into what I call today, around 10 years ago, I call it an existential crisis, where I just had to stop this running. I'm on a treadmill and I'm going nowhere. And that's when I went back to what I've always been reading in psychology, philosophy, metaphysics, spirituality, were always to me like a side thing. I like them very much. I'm interested in them, but I never had the time for them. It's like, I'll come back to you. I know there's something there, but I'll come back to you. And it's this, at this crisis point, as I said, where I had to stop running. I was already teaching at the 2 largest universities in Egypt. I dropped them out. I left the corporate and I went into like 1.5 years of a transpersonal journey. I went into the mountains of Sinai here, very close to Mount Moses, very sacred place. And I spent a couple of years of reading and researching, and something shifted. I have no idea what it was at that time, but something shifted. And I never thought that one day I would be teaching or educating or training in this area. It was just like I'm taking a time off. And I never went back to the old world, as I say it. And that's when I discovered 2 models that would really change everything for me. And at that time, there were 2 independent models, the Enneagram and Wilber's integral theory, among other models, like David Hawkins' map of consciousness, like the Sufi levels of the self, like the work of Carl Jung, like so much other work around them. But these 2 were really the core. And at that time, I considered them the Enneagram. I would call it the horizontal consciousness model. It's the model that allows us to see the world from different points of view. The circle of the Enneagram, I will be showing the symbol of the Enneagram in a moment. The circle of the Enneagram represents this world we're living in, this manifest world, this material world. And it's as if around the rim of the circle, we're all looking at the world, that's the inside of the circle, but from different angles. And every one of us can just see part of the truth. It really requires an integral view, a holistic view all around the circle in order to embrace the entire truth, which is way beyond the capacity of every single individual one of us. And that also allows for an understanding that no point of view, no angle is actually better than any other one. So when we come to talk about the types, no type is better than a type. No philosophy is better than another philosophy. They're all just integrated views that create one holistic circle, one view. And by understanding this horizontal dimension of consciousness, you get to realize that the journey is actually, on one level, integrating, understanding that there are so many views, even if you cannot see from those angles. But your real journey is the vertical integration, is the growth and the maturity inside your point of view, inside your angle, inside where you are in the world and how you see the world. And this is where the dimensions of consciousness, as I call them, came in. The cognitive maturity, which is best represented by the spiral dynamics integral, but by so many other models of development also, But the backbone for me in this growth from a cognitive perspective would be the spiral dynamics integral and the spiritual growth. So there's the cognitive growth and there's the spiritual transpersonal growth, which again is represented by so many mystic paths around the world, from the Sufis to the Buddhists to the modern psychology, transpersonal psychology, from Carl Jung and from even the work of Maslow and Stanislav Grof and others. But again, I always like to build on a backbone. So I take one model as the backbone and I build on it. So I took the Sufi levels of self and I built there the growth of each Enneagram type from a spiritual perspective. And this gave me a three-dimensional model. A three-dimensional model that allowed me to like rest. Yes, now I have something that I finally felt is building value inside. When I look back, it's as if there was this emptiness, and running to achieve in the material world was just creating a greater emptiness. It's an emptiness I got to realize from the Enneagram after that, that each one of us is striving for something, is running after something. But as long as we're trying to satisfy that something outside, we're never satisfied. We're just drinking from a salty water, drinking from the sea. I want to be powerful, I want to be successful, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to be knowledgeable, I want to be safe, I want to be righteous, I want to be at peace, and I'm trying to do it outside. And this is where the magnificence of the Enneagram came, to direct you inside. Know thyself, look within you. All the secrets and the mystery is within you. So I took this mystery and I applied it on these levels of development and maturity and spiritual growth. So today my plan is to present the Enneagram from my school of thinking. Now, the Enneagram, you need to understand, is like a living organism. It is a model that is continuously growing. It's not really just a fixed model. It doesn't have an owner. It doesn't have a textbook reference where you just go back to this and anything else is wrong or right. When I actually introduce in my teachings the history of the Enneagram, I go back to the ancient Egyptians and to the Greeks and to the mystics of Christianity and the mystics of Islam, the mystics of the Jewish Kabbalah and the Buddhists and the Hindus, and you find roots, because actually the Enneagram is a model of human suffering and human meaning. Human suffering when you are identified with what you're meant to be, and human meaning when you are, let's say, channeling what you're meant to be. And I will describe all that in a minute. Again, this is just the 5-minute introduction and I'll go into the details. So the Enneagram has such deep and ancient roots, yet it's continuously renewing itself. So the modern Enneagram, what we call today the Enneagram of Personalities, so the Enneagram is so huge, and we take from it just one bucket, what we call the Enneagram of Personality, breaking us down into 9 personalities. That is just a small bucket from the world of the Enneagram, from the mystery of the Enneagram. And this has its roots in the last 50 years, in Gurdjieff, in Ichazo, in Naranjo, in Russ Hudson and Don Rizzo and Helen Palmer and Richard Rohr, and all these names in the last 50 years that have introduced aspects of the Enneagram. Yet by understanding the Enneagram in this scope, it's not like spiral dynamics back to Graves and then given to Cohen and Beck and then coming. No, it's not like that. It's, I call it a river that has so many branches coming in. What are they called? Tributaries, or coming in, flowing in, and just adding it to it all the time. That's why I call it a living organism. And part of this, I hope, is these 2 tributaries that I have added to the Enneagram, of combining it with the developmental models with a backbone of the spiral dynamics integral, SDI, and the tributary of the mystic branches. I call the cognitive side the stages of the mind. That's the name I give to my model. And the spiritual side, the stages of the heart. I will not be talking today at all about the stages of the heart. It's not in the context of our speech today. So again, I will just introduce the Enneagram from my school of thought. I'm usually used to the other way around. I'm usually presenting to Enneagram communities. So I start by presenting the SDI and then the stages of the mind. But today I'll be doing the opposite. I'll start by introducing the Enneagram from my school of thought and then the stages of the mind. Just to continue this, after that, I went into a master's degree in transpersonal psychology. I'm still finishing it now in Liverpool, John Moores in the UK. And I studied like a ton of other, what we would call self-development knowledges. And as usual, all of them I reach a master level or a teacher level, but they were just all like assisting in building the models. And in the Enneagram world, I became an accredited professional from the International Enneagram Association. It's the only body worldwide that represents the Enneagram. So it's a very unique case in the Enneagram world. They only have one body that represents it. All the other models have so many other bodies. And I have the first accredited program and accredited school in North Africa and the Middle East. So let's go directly to the Enneagram. And again, I usually start the Enneagram from a bit of a different place. People usually go into the Enneagram directly jumping into 9 types. And to me, the Enneagram is such a powerful model that due to its power, it can have so much advantage, goodness to give. Yet anything that has all that power can also give so much negativity, so much harm. I have to be very careful using the Enneagram. I compare it to atomic power. Atomic power can feed the world with almost free energy, or it could destroy the world. So on the psychological level, on the psycho-spiritual level, you could compare the Enneagram to the atomic energy. It can heal our wounds, can awaken us all to this truth of who we are, or we could use it to destroy the psyche of those around us and even ourselves. One of our lovely teachers has a wonderful word. He says, the Enneagram is not a weapon and is not an excuse. The Enneagram is not a weapon you go around to wield against others. Oh, look at you. You're a type X. That's why you're doing this. And of course, ha, 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 look at what you're doing. And you just like destroy the psyche. You can really hurt the people around you. Because with the Enneagram, you have such a deep X-ray that the person in front of you is almost naked. You know their drives, you know their hurt, you know their pains, you know their wounds, you know their suffering from deep inside. And if you're not really conscious enough, you can just add pain, you can add gas to the fire, fuel to the fire that's burning inside them. And it's not an excuse. I remember a friend of mine who came and took the Enneagram with me, and then the next day we had a meeting, and he came like half an hour late. Come on, why are you late? I've been waiting for you. Oh, come on, you know, I'm type such and such. Oh, you should know better that I never come on time. No, 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 no. Enneagram is not an excuse. It's for you to discover who you are and what you're doing so that you can work on yourself and help create compassion and mercy to all those around you. So I enter the Enneagram by understanding the human condition. And I start from what we call the intelligence centers. The mystics have always understood, and modern science now has confirmed this, agreed with this, that we don't actually have just one way of interpreting the inputs that we receive from the outside world. And I put outside world in quotes. So all the time we are bombarded with tons of information from outside. And we actually have, and this is not linear, but we like to classify things to understand them, but everything actually is interrelated. So if you break them down, we break them down into 3 intelligence centers. what we call the thinking brain, the head, and this interprets the information outside in the shape of data, in the language of thoughts. And this is actually, when we say my mind, we usually mean this one. This is what talks about rational information, cognitive information, classification, strategies. We'll show all that in a minute. And then we have the emotional brain. And the emotional brain, with its energetic center at the center of the chest, close to the heart. That's why we metaphorically call it the heart, but it's actually an emotional brain, and which has its processing center in the cortex, in the mammalian cortex. And this interprets the same information flowing in the shape of emotions, feelings. Its language is emotions and feelings. And its job is very different than this one, than the first one. Its job is bonding, relationships, creating meaning and value to my existence, seeing my image and how I relate to those around me. This started with the mammalian need for the mother to bond with the children. And this created this force of relating between them so that the mother can stay beside the little kittens and the little puppies, because they come out premature. With the reptiles, they just come out of the egg and they run like the little turtles and the little snakes. But now the nervous system is so complex that they cannot remain inside for too long. They need to come out and be cared for. And as the nervous system became more and more complex, as this period of bonding required to be longer. So this is the emotional brain. And then we have the sensing brain, the body brain, what we call the gut. So metaphorically, we call them gut, heart, and head. But we have to remember, they're just brains. They're just cognitive abilities. They're just, processing abilities. They are processing information. They are brains. They are the hardware for the minds, the different minds, the software. And the sensing brain, this is the reptilian brain inside up here. So its processing unit is the reptilian, the one all the way inside at the center. And its energetic place is down in the gut. And this is responsible for receiving the body signals from the inside and the outside. Danger from the outside, thirst or needing to sleep from the inside. So it's receiving the inner and outer signals that are signaling to the body what it needs to do now to be safe and secure. As an example, when I drink this water that I'm drinking, it's this body brain that distributes the water to the places that need it in the body. I don't need to think about it. I'm thinking about it, but with my gut. And it's getting all the functions well inside. So the thinking brain, language, abstraction, strategies, making meaning, innovation, imagining what does not exist. The thinking brain is working in the future. It's a guiding brain. It analyzes the past and the present to secure my survival in the future. And it requires resources. It's always checking, do I have the resources for the future or not? The emotional brain is thinking in emotions, in memories, in habits, in values, even, by the way, in inherent beliefs. These are here, not up here. And compassion, mercy, caring for each other, nurturing each other, being in the world. This is the center that creates live beings out of those around me. You know, if it wasn't for this center and people who have this center weakly integrated, that are only functioning from the head and from the gut. Others are just objects. Animals are just objects. Trees are just objects. We just navigate the objects outside for our survival. It's this center that creates compassion and mercy and connection between humans and living life around them. This is where empathy comes out of. And the gut brain is the brain of life force, being here, alive, mobilization, preserving my body, preserving my life, preserving myself, having the courage to act. And this is the one that reacts with fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn at the moment. The gut brain is 10 to 100 times faster than the emotional brain. It's much older. And the emotional brain is 10 to 100 times faster than the thinking brain. We take decisions, we act, and we have an emotional reaction to events around us even before our thinking brain realizes that something is going on. So there's a huge difference in speed between these three brains. The gut brain reacts to the present moment. So its time is now. It cares about its personal space. It seeks autonomy. It's the oldest. The emotional brain reacts to relationships, cares about its image, its value, and seeks a sense of value, a role in the community around it. And it's mostly oriented to the past. While the thinking brain reacts to these supposed and expected threats in the future and always measures, do I have enough resources to face the future or not? And seeks strategies and resources to guarantee survival in the future. Now, this is an introduction to the three centers. Now comes the most important part. As long as the organism is functioning with full connection to nature, not sensing itself as separate from nature, these centers act naturally. Just like any mammal, they're just working. But then the human being was blessed with a capacity. And as I said, just like the atomic energy, every blessing is a curse. It just really depends on which side are you using this power that you have, this atomic power that you have, this power to self-reflect. We're not just aware. Animals are aware of their survival, of their surroundings. The dog is aware when you enter the house and it jumps on you and kisses you. The kitten is aware when it's hungry and it needs to eat. But we are aware of our awareness. This is our consciousness. We have a capacity to know that we are who we are. We are the only bag of chemicals that knows that it is a bag of chemicals. So this magnificent power that the humans have that makes the universe wake up. It's the universe suddenly reflecting on itself, and we are part of this universe. We're not separate from it. So this capacity allows us either to appreciate the magnificence of this incredible system that we are part of and just flow with it, or think that we're separate, become defensive, and have to always seek survival from the threats of the outside world. And that's why I'm putting outside world always in quotes. Because as long as you see it as an outside world, you are separating yourself from this magnificent system, this extremely wise, extremely generous, extremely abundant system that knows what it's doing, regardless of your belief, regardless if you have a monotheistic belief, an atheist, a Buddhist, regardless of what you have, you cannot but just stand in awe in front of this magnificent system around you. You can just after that say it's because of this or it's because of that. That's something else. So by realizing this, you flow. This debate about human will, when you realize really the magnificence of the system, you would only will to flow with the system. But as long as you don't realize this, you resist. And once you start to resist, the Buddha said, all suffering is because having what you do not want or wanting what you do not have. And I describe this as resistance. Something is missing. And when the head resists, believes that it's in danger, it doesn't have resources. Again, this is now the secrets of the types, the inner core of the types. I don't have enough resources to survive in the future. The future is not secure. What do I get infested with? Fear, anxiety, and I lose my sense of power and capability. I'm not ready for the future. I need to prepare. I need one resource or the other, depending on the type. When the emotional brain senses a separation, now its separation is a separation of value, a separation of role, which both make a separation of image. I am not who I'd like to be. I want to have a certain value in my surroundings. I want you all to see me in a certain way. It reaches an extent where I even have a problem of knowing myself. Who am I? I am what you think I am. Am I successful or not? I have to look into your eyes. If I see in your eyes, wow, yes, then I'm successful. But if I see in your eyes, come on, then I'm not successful. I don't have a value. You give me my value. I lost my sense of connection with my value. And that creates a sense of shame and sadness. These are the primary feelings and emotions. Usually when I teach over 12 weeks. I start the first 4 or 5 hours of teaching, each session, 12 weeks, 4 to 5 hours every week. I start by describing the primary feelings and emotions because we're not even connected with those. Inside Out is a beautiful movie to watch in this. Inside Out shows us these prime emotions and feelings working within us. So now we have shame and sadness. Shame meaning I'm not valuable enough. I wish I was more valuable. I've lost sense of my eternal existential value. And when the gut disconnects, it finds fear in its environment. It finds insecurity, in its environment, which gives the body a sense of lack of control over the surroundings. And what does the sense of lack of control turn into in the human psyche? When you have a kid that needs to go to study and supposed to be taking his courses online, and you go in and you find them just watching anything on YouTube. You have lost control over your kid. What energy flows in your body? The energy of anger. Anger, once you are taken over by anger, immediately reflect. This is a sense of loss of control over my environment and surroundings. It's as if I need the world to be as I want it to be. Why is it not like I wanted to be? Now, humans have all these 3 centers in them. Every one of us gets angry at one point in their life or another. Every one of us at a moment feels shame, feels I'm not enough, has to show off. Oh, I have a PhD. Oh, I have a company. Oh, I have this. Oh, I have that. Told you my vanity slide. We have to show off a bit. This is shame. This is lack of value. Every one of us gets anxious, afraid of the future. Am I ready for tomorrow or not? Do I have enough knowledge and experience to give this session or not? Uh-oh, will I talk right or not? So we all have these three centers, and we all have them distorted to one extent or another. But by nature, by programming, by the will of this magnificent living organism that's called the universe, that has brought us into it, woken up our consciousness at a certain moment, and will shut it off again at a certain moment, that same will defined our role, our message, our function in life. Each one of us, just like everything else in the universe, came in to do a certain job. The story of the universe is not about us. We are just part of it. So it has pre-programmed us to give one of these three centers dominance over the other two. I call it, we have given the keys of our car, our existence to one of these three centers. And the other center is, as they say, sitting shotgun, sitting beside the driver. So for example, I have the head center driving the car. And I have, let's say, the heart center sitting beside the driver. And we all have a center that we threw back on the back seat. And even when that back seat person sitting in the back, when they make some noise, you know, like in the cabs, sometimes we just close the glass. We don't want to hear you. We all have one center that we hardly refer to. And that makes our view to the world coming from one of these. Some of us, their prime drive in life is security in the future. And their prime affect that's pushing them in the world is fear and anxiety. Some of us are living to feel value, relationships, and to have a place, an image. And we are driven by shame and sadness. And some of us, our prime drive in the world is to make our environment as we want it to be, always repairing our environment. And we are driven by a life force, a hot life force that easily turns into anger. And this has been mentioned in mythology for ages. A beautiful movie that I always advise people after such a session to go back to and watch, and even better if you would read the little story. It's a beautiful story, or just watch the movie, The Wizard of Oz. I think we've all seen The Wizard of Oz. And the three characters that Dorothy meets on her way, trying to find her way back home. What does back home mean? In mythology, when the hero is trying to find their way back home, they're trying to find their true self. They are trying to find the meaning of their existence. It's the seeking journey that I was talking to you about at the start of the session. It is Odysseus, after the Battle of Troy, trying to find his way home. And Odysseus passes through 9 cities, each with a vice, with a major problem, and he has to free himself from these 9. These are the 9 types of the Enneagram, by the way. These are the 9 levels of purgatory, of hell in Dante. They're the same 9. That's why I'm saying you could talk about the Enneagram from so many mythologies and so many philosophies and so many religions, and they're all talking about the same thing. The hero finding his or her way back home. So Dorothy wants her way back home. And she meets 3 characters, each one of them having an issue. She meets the Scarecrow, and the Scarecrow has a problem with thinking. That's why he's always afraid. He cannot think. He wants a thinking brain. She meets the Tin Man, and the Tin Man has a problem with having a heart, emotions, feelings, love. And she meets the Lion, and the Lion has a problem with courage. This is the gut, the body being strong. And she meets all these witches and munchkins. All these are representing the ego and its inner wounds and its shadows and its frightening things. And she has to overcome all these, the purification process that the Sufis talk about, purifying yourself until she meets the wizard, representing the wisdom. And what wisdom does he have to tell her? You've always had it within you. It's always been in you. Why are you looking outside? This is the error of all human beings, looking outside for what they have in them. And once he tells them that, the Scarecrow realizes his thinking, the Tin Man realizes his emotions, the Lion realizes his gut and courage, and Dorothy wakes up back home. So this is the journey of the 9 types. But each one of them, these are the 3 characters for those who don't know them. So actually, this is the Enneagram. And unfortunately, I've seen in the Enneagram world, I would say no less than 90% of the ways it's demonstrated, it doesn't come from here. It just comes from, oh, there's a type 4 and a type 2 and a type 1 and a type 7. And that way of teaching the Enneagram creates silos, creates labels, creates branding. But when you come in from this direction, you realize we are all having the same sources of suffering. It's just that each one of us is focusing on one of the sufferings and making it his life mission. And the suffering just grows. So the Enneagram puts this on a diagram. The Enneagram symbol are the white lines in the background. But then it's actually broken down into 3 segments. This top segment represents the gut, the body. This right segment represents the heart, the emotions and feelings. And this left segment represents the thinking center. Now, we are all of these. We are one of these, and we are none of these. We are all of these because they're all within us. We have all 9 types within us. The moment you say, oh, I don't like type 4, or I'm irritated by type 8, you're only talking about yourself. You're only talking about a part of your shadows that you have not integrated yet. A hidden part inside you that you're not embracing. So the outside world is pointing to issues within us. You are all of these. You are one of these, but you've given the key to one of these. And the others are just serving the king. And you are none of these. You are way beyond your type. You are not a type. You have a type. Just like you have a name. Just like you're called Selma, and you're called Marlo, and you're called Marty, and you're called Constantine. You have a name, but you're not really Constantine. It's just a name you have. You're something much greater than that. You're a consciousness way beyond that. If we give you a different name tomorrow, you will still be you. You're something much greater than a type. And it's this greater thing that creates this compassion and harmony together. And when we lose sense of this, we fall into anger, shame, and fear and anxiety. Now, anger, shame, anxiety are energies, are very powerful forces within us, atomic energy inside your body. Remember the last time you were extremely angry. Maybe right now you're extremely angry at this session and it's not giving you what you expected. And you're so angry, you just want to shout out. If you have an energy of anger boiling within you, remember the first law of thermodynamics. Energy is not created or destroyed. It can only change form. So this anger, if you're not handling it, if you're not embracing it, if you cannot really sit relaxed and observe the anger within you, if you don't have that sense of presence, what happens? Anger takes over. Anger is either a powerful tool in your hand to change the world, or you become a tool in anger's hand and you just become a slave to that anger. And once you lose presence and anger takes over, it has one of three ways of changing its form. The one we're most familiar with is expression. So any energy of these, anger or shame or fear, has one of three ways of releasing itself, one of three ways of treating itself. Either expression. I bring this anger, blop, and I throw it out onto the environment that I feel is wrong. Remember, the gut is about repairing my environment. My environment is not good. So now my anger is directed at the environment, at all of you. The problem we have is because of all of you. And I will repair all of you so that the environment is okay. Expressing outside, meaning directing the problem against you. And the other way around is bringing it inside. I got a private, yes, okay, I'll take care of that. The other way is inside, where I direct the energy inside, and now the problem is in me. And the third way is denying the energy, disconnecting. What problem? There is no problem. So 3 ways of expressing the energy. By 3 centers, 3 by 3 is 9. So I have 9 types. So what are the 9 types? Type 8. My environment is bad. I'll go now over the 9 types very quickly. The environment is wrong. I am angry. I express my anger outside. I need to repair the environment. I seek justice. I seek correcting the wrong that's being done. I protect the weak. I am the strong leader. I can be healthy or unhealthy. When I'm healthy, I'm a leader that changes the world. I'm Martin Luther King. I am Moses. And when I'm unhealthy, I am a destructive, aggressive force. I am Stalin. I am Genghis Khan. I am someone who's refusing now to leave office because I'm angry. The 9, the one in the center, always disconnects. Anger? No, I don't have anger. But by disconnecting from anger, I disconnect from my life force. I just want peace. I want peace inside and I want peace outside. And these become the peacemakers of the world. These become the people that bring us harmony, acceptance. We all love each other and care for each other as we are. But if I lose this sense, I lose myself. I don't exist. I drop down. This is the energy of Christian monasteries. This is Muhammad. This is the peacemakers of the United Nations, peacemakers, you know, that they send to create peace, harmony. Their gift is mediation. And the one directs the anger inside. The problem is in me. I have to repair myself to repair my environment. And these become the righteous people. These become the sources of morality, the sources of sticking to a system, following a correct path. This is Gandhi. This is Nelson Mandela. This is Al Gore. This is the people who have to make the world correct. The 8s can turn into aggressive, ruthless people. The 9s can turn into sloth and laziness. And the 1 can turn into never satisfied perfectionists. But always remember the greatest gifts. So I said these are the 3 energies, just to complete this, this slide. And I will jump immediately to this slide, the greatest gifts. The 1 becomes the source of righteousness and morality, which can turn into a source of resentment and wrath. This is the stereotypical image of the principal of the school with their very known finger. And they bring the morality to the system. Going to the heart center, the 2 drops the shame and sadness outside. I don't have a problem. You guys have a problem. I have to care for you. They become the archetypal mother, the nurturing figure, the caring figure. This is Mother Mary. This is Isis in the ancient Egyptian mythology. This is the Mother Earth, Mother Nature, Mother Universe, the caring, the sustaining, the loving, the sacrificing for everyone around, which can turn into a sense of, I don't need anything from anyone. You all need me. Becomes a sense of pride, a sense of I'm more important than all of you. None of you can live without me. If I wasn't around, would you die from hunger? Would you die from, you know, the typical, stereotypical mother? And nature turns all mothers with newborn babies into type 2. The 2 increases in them very much so that they take care of this new mammal that came into the world. And then type 3 disconnects from their emotions, disconnects from their value, and they turn into doers. These are the value makers. This is the Industrial Revolution. This is the American dream. This is doing just to sense value, to feel that I am. Never getting enough. Vanity, as Al Pacino said in Devil's Advocate, vanity, my favorite sin. This is showing off. But on the healthy side, it becomes, I call them the golden fingers. They know how to make 1 + 1 = 15, = 20. They create value, they create meaning, they grow civilizations. This is Dubai, for those who have gone to Dubai. The ruler of Dubai is a typical type 3, building the highest building, creating the island in the sea. I always want to do something greater than anyone else. And the 4 directs the shame and sadness within. And with this shame and sadness within, I feel something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with the world. It's a sense of continuous deficiency. But when I overcome this sense of deficiency, these become the types that show us our emotions, show us our beauty, and find beauty in the world. These are the artists of the world, the poets of the world, the painters of the world. This is Van Gogh. This is Johnny Depp. This is Michael Jackson. This is the people that are always trying to make something more beautiful, better, unique, special. When they're in their shame and sadness, they always feel no one understands me. No one knows me. No one feels me. But they're always seeking the one. This is Rumi with his mystic love. This is romantic fiction. They are the source of this romantic fiction, always feeling they're not in the right place. Something is always not right. So they're always trying to find the beauty, the emotional beauty. Then going to the head types, We have the 5 directs the anxiety inside. The world is frightening. I'm not ready for the future. I don't have enough resources. And the most important resource for the 5 is time and energy. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough time. I have to hold on. I need to understand. And by doing that, they separate from the world and they become observers. This is the stereotype of the wise guru sitting on the mountain, Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda, sitting on the mountain, taking his time. You come to me, I don't come to you. I talk in very few words. But behind that is a fear of lack of resources, a fear of lack of time. I don't want to spend energy. I just want to understand. And these become the scientists and the philosophers of the world. This is Einstein. This is Socrates. This is Newton. This is Abraham. These are these wise people of the world. Wisdom and clarity. This is Archimedes with his Eureka. I found it. I don't care I'm naked. I don't care about anything else. I just want to realize the truth. And this takes us to type 6, that is so frightened, so lost, that they disconnect from their source of thinking. And the thinking center is the guiding center. So it's as if I have so many thoughts in my head, but I don't have a guiding power to tell me which thought to follow. All the thoughts look the same. I'm in a roundabout in London. I have 8 streets coming out of the roundabout. If you remember the very old movie, Chevy Chase in European Trip, when he goes into the roundabout and they spend the whole day just going around in the roundabout. They don't know which road to take. They all look the same. And I don't have a GPS. I don't have a map. So I'm just going around. I'm looking for someone or something to follow. Otherwise, all the roads look the same. And this is what happens to the 6 when they disconnect from their source of guidance. They fall into a state of doubt. Should I take left or should I take right? Should I go up? Should I go down? I don't know. Overdrive, causing anxiety, seeking solidarity and standing together. And the 6 becomes the source of organizations, of communities, of bureaucracy, of building states, building blocks that we all live with, loyalty, trust, hand in hand. No man is left behind. And they have vigilance, awareness, always awake, seeing the signals of the world, preparing for the next moment. Countries are built on the energy of 6. Organizations are built on the energy of 6. They hold us together. They bind us together. And finally, so that we jump into the stages of the mind, type 7. Type 7 throws the anxiety outside. I don't have enough resources, and I will find the resources outside. So I need the freedom, I need the speed, I need the thought, I need the spontaneity to get whatever resource I want. And they become the source of freedom, lightness, joy, happiness, enjoying our life, always seeing the next thing, always seeing possibilities, creativity, innovation. They're very smart, they're very witty. This is Aladdin in Disney. This is Robin Williams. This is the Dalai Lama. Always lightness and love, and everything is beautiful, and look at the bright side. But it can turn into a sense of scatteredness, unable to focus, needing options, needing not to be stuck. So many poor children, type 7, have been diagnosed with ADHD just because they're a 7. They're not sick. And we try to destroy their personality with pills. We're destroying their 7-ness. They are free souls. They just want to laugh and want to run. And they're so intelligent. Just give them the chance. It's not saying that ADD or ADHD is not a disease. Some people have it. But most of those identified as ADD are actually just type 7s that need to mature, to have this lightness and brightness in the world from them. So by understanding these core drives of the 9 types, I started studying how would these types look along the levels of the spiral. We're now not just talking about a stereotypical type. We're talking about a deep drive that will manifest in a different way in each level of the spiral, in each level of development. So over the last years, I've been teaching the Enneagram, and I have hundreds of students that have graduated, actually over 1,000 that have studied with me. So I started teaching them the spiral and then creating groups with them and building this stages of the mind model and doing research and testing it on them until this model came up, the 9 types up the spiral. And due to time, I will just very briefly, in the few minutes that I have left, I will assume they are 10 minutes. I know they're supposed to be less. Show the journey of type 2 very briefly up the spiral. So what is the type 2 in beige? The type 2 in beige is represented by the primate mother. Now, I wish I had a picture for a Homo habilis or a Homo erectus or a Neanderthal mother. That would be more closer maybe to a beige purple mother. But anyway, we'll go along with a chimp. And I would say that no, in beige, type 2 is much more evolved than a chimp. It's the mothering instinct. It's the emotional belonging to the species and caring for my survival and for the survival of the species. It is the mammalian mother. And once the sense of group shows up, then this becomes the social bonding source within the group. Parenting for the tribe, for the clan, caring for them, creating affiliation, taking care of the vulnerable ones, sacrificing my time and effort to assure that the clan is okay, breastfeeding the kids of the clan. Now, once the individual I shows up and the red comes in, what happens? Now there is a sense of, I need to take care of myself, the red. But I need to take care of myself using the powers I have of emotional manipulation through care and love. And this is what the red mother, red type 2 looks like. I'm using the female sense as a stereotype. Men and women can both be type 2. My late father was a type 2. Beautiful, lovely, loving, caring type 2. But I'm using this just as an archetype. This is the godmother. They control and survive through being indispensable. This is not the mafia leader. This is the second hand of the mafia leader. The person that's actually more powerful than the mafia leader. This is the person in the organization that you go to, the secretary of the boss, that you go to, and he has the keys of everything in the organization. He knows where the power is. Power is obtained by being the liaison of the power brokers. This is, for a woman, could be, I mean, again, I'm not meaning anything bad here. I'm giving archetypes. This is the prostitute selling my body to gain my power and freedom. I'm controlling you with emotions and sex, and I'm maintaining my individuality. And for a man, being second in command, controlling with emotions and care for everyone. Now, one thing that was very interesting to me when I created the stages of the mind model is that we got to figure out that actually the Enneagram books are describing every type from a level. And type 2 usually in the books is described from the blue. So you see how different it was in the previous 3 levels. Once the 2 enters the blue, they become the archetypal, I mean, it's called so many names, the Jewish mother, the Middle Eastern mother, We call it the Egyptian mother. In Europe, they call it the Italian mother. This is the archetypal mother that's caring. And I even put a picture here from all three, from a Middle Eastern mother, from an Italian mother, from a Jewish mother. It's the same. These are the ones that dedicate their life and sacrifice their life for their family and group members. What do you want, Mama, for your birthday? I want to see you happy. What should I get you? Just get me yourself and be around me. So what do you need? I need you to be successful. No, you. No, I don't want anything. This is the sacrifice for the happiness of those around me. And this is the archetypal type 2. For example, type 3 is described usually in the books from orange. Type 9 is usually described from green. So it's very interesting when you realize that each type is archetypally described from a level, but the type is changing. So this lovely mother that most probably many of us have seen in their life, what happens to her when she becomes orange? Orange again is an agency stage. It's again my success, but again I'm a type 2. My success comes through the success, the gain, the shining, the pleasure of those I support. And this becomes the second lady, the first lady, as they say. An interesting statistic shows that the most US presidents were type 9. Most US presidents, the biggest number of types was type 9. And that makes sense because the 9 is the type that has this mediating capacity to navigate this very complex web of American politics. Like Barack Obama was a 9, for example. He got his peace prize even before becoming a president. They just spread peace. And the most number of first ladies in the US politics were type 2s. These are the ones that support their loved one to succeed. And they themselves shine in that success. It's Nancy Reagan, it's Barbara Bush, it's Dolly Parton. These are very charming, very seductive. They are these, what they call them, I think, the charming teenager and girl that, you know, that just charms with her beauty. This is what the 2s try to do. And this is their success and pleasure and gain in orange. And then I'm almost finishing. Okay, getting there, 3 minutes. And then we go to green. And what happens? Again, it's communion, but it's communion for the whole earth. It's no longer my family and my clan and my tribe. It is the mother of the entire earth, the custodian, the one that cares for the earth and feels abundance, feels a flow. And green can be a very dangerous place for type 2. They can be totally abused out of their resources. If they have not reached a psychological maturity enough to allow them to say no, to build boundaries and to control their resources, if they have not gained that skill before entering green, they will be sucked out of all the resources and left, you know, like spread thin. They can suffer tremendously in green because they cannot say no. They just have to care for Mother Earth and everything within it. And it's only at yellow that the system becomes clear to the 2 and they realize that the most important person I need to take care of is myself. I need to nurture myself, love myself, care for myself authentically so that I can care for the whole system. What I've been trying to do outside can only be achieved inside. And I start to authentically heal the world by starting with myself and those around me. It is no longer a caring and nurturing out of fear and out of deficiency and out of lack. It is a caring and nurturing out of sufficiency, giving myself a place in the system. I manage my resources, I have true altruism, and I discover the importance of integrating care. And I am part of that care which takes us, of course, to the very hard level. Usually it's the toughest level to describe, of course, the turquoise, where suddenly this integrates with some kind of mystic bond with the universe. I recognize my humbleness. I awaken my true heart, and I just become a stream, a flow of care and flow of love in the world. And I no longer have a need to be indispensable. I am indispensable. I am. I'm one with the world. I think I'll stop here. I tried as much as possible to go through it quickly. Of course, I teach this in months, so I hope this has been enough, and I'm open for your discussions and your questions and your comments.
Okay, thanks so far, Khaled. And yeah, let's see if anybody has any questions.
Hi, Khaled. I have a question.
Hello, Salma.
It was really comprehensive and interesting. First of all, thank you. I think I would love to hear the rest of the story. It sounded like it's just a glimpse, you know. So I'm not an Enneagram expert, just to understand. As far as I heard and read a little bit, there is always like three, it's like archetypes, right? Some of them are active in part of your life. So it's not like you are only 2, 3, or 5, whatever, you know, 3, it can change. So do you see any pattern, you know, when you match this with the maturity of the spiral?
Okay, in general, your dominant type is always your dominant type. It's always. But in contexts in your life, some of your other secondary types might increase. And by increasing, they never dominate. They just become a stronger tool to serve the requirements of the dominant type. So let's say I am a head type, thinking, cognitive, rational, and my mother is an emotional type, a type 2 or a type 4, wanting love. And I'm just dealing with her all the time with rationality and logic. And all the time she's unsatisfied. And all the time she's complaining. If I am organically intelligent enough, at one point, maybe my sister is always telling me, oh, you don't deal with her like that, you don't talk to her like that. At one point, I might start dealing with my mother in a bit of an emotional way. It's like a survival mechanism. The child discovers it. I cannot be rational with my mother. That doesn't mean that at that moment I'm becoming a 4 or a 2. I'm just using my emotional capacities to serve the desires of my dominant type. So the dominant type is always leading. You're one of these, but you have all of these within you. Now, as we grow along the spiral, even our demands, again, this is the contextual. In our society, in our culture, there might be different contexts. I need certain things. These don't change my type, as you saw in the description of type 2. This just changes how I use the tools and the powers I have within me to serve my type. So type 2 in red, for example, red seems to be a very gut level, energy level. It's about action, it's about power, it's gut. I mean, when you look at the spiral, you have the red in the gut, the blue and the orange in the head, the green in the heart, and then the yellow actually integrates the 3 centers. So when you look at it, it's the gut that is in control in red. But I'm still a 2. I'm still a 2 leading from my heart. So what do? I use the powers of my heart to find safety in a gut environment. I find power, I find energy through my emotional manipulation, through my 2ishness. I don't become an 8. I don't become a 9. I don't become a 1. I use my access in those for the service of my 2ishness. Again, this slide would show it very well. I still control, but through indispensability, not through anger, not through power, through making you need me, which is the same as the control in the blue. I find myself through you needing me, but you needing me here is a very different shape of needing than you needing me here. Very different than you needing me here. So it's using the energy of the stage to serve the energy of the type.
So it's like a matrix of energies.
Exactly. And that's why it's a synthesis of both energies. It's not this, it's not a superposition. It's not adding this to this. It's both of them getting together and creating something new. It's an emergent quality. It's like oxygen and hydrogen, one flammable and one that helps, that is required for a fire, getting together and creating water. It's an emergent quality. It's not really just a superposition.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Khaled.
Thank you, Sam.
Any other questions?
Yeah, how do we go further? How do we see the rest of this story?
Okay, and until today, I've been building the model and I have reached a level of maturity in it. All this time I've been teaching. I still don't have books. Hopefully I'm planning this year to be my book publishing year. But the way to get in is I always depend on the courses. And I'm actually just next week, I'm starting the round of this stages of the mind. So I have two paths. One I call the awakening path, which uses the Enneagram. It's called Awaken Through Enneagram. And this is the path of knowing yourself deeply. It goes from Enneagram of Personality to Enneagram of Psychology to Enneagram of Transformation to Enneagram of Spirituality and Relationships. And that is the path for those who are not deep into the Enneagram. Those who know the Enneagram, this is the second, the deeper journey. It's called the Integral Enneagram, where it starts with the stages of the mind, integrating the Enneagram with the spiral, and then stages of the heart, integrating the Enneagram with the spiritual journeys of the world. The mystic is a very mystic level. And then the dimensions of consciousness, which puts all this together. So again, briefly, I have two paths, and they're both starting next week, by the way. One is the Enneagram path for those who are not familiar with the Enneagram, and one called the Integral Enneagram, starting with these stages of the mind. So if you know the Enneagram, then immediately you can just hop on next Sunday. By the way, next week is the first time ever I teach them in English. I've always been teaching them in Arabic for years now, but I found them ready to go out to the world. So next week I teach them for the first time in English. I start Sunday with the stages of the mind, and Saturday with the Enneagram of Personality. You can either take Enneagram of Personality if you don't know the Enneagram. You can take stages of the mind if you know the Enneagram. Or if you want stages of the mind and you're not sure about the Enneagram, you can take them both. It's once a week for 12 weeks. EnneagramEgypt.com is my website. You'll find all the information there. And maybe Oke can share that.
Yeah.
Fascinating work. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you, Christian.
I'm just wondering, Khaled, because people here know the spiral dynamics well and the stages of the mind, is there going to be much overlap for them?
Well, that's a very good question, because as I said, usually I am talking to the Enneagram community about this. So the 12 weeks, the first 4 weeks, in these 12, I go over the basic principles of human development in the first 2 weeks, and then I briefly go over the spiral in week 3 and 4. And then from week 5, I start the real developmental levels from 5 to 12. I go over beige, beige, purple, red. I go week by week after that. So yes, those who are really deep in the spiral will find some overlap, especially in week 3 and 4. Each week is 4 to 5 hours. I think this year it's 4 hours. So If you're really strong in the spiral, you will have to bear with me a bit in the week 3 and 4. 1 and 2, I actually go over the developmental models, and I call it basic principles. I cover a lot from Wilber and from Gebser and from other places. So you might know that, you might not. 3 and 4 are the levels of the spiral. 5 is the real model of ascension. I call it the ascending the spiral.
Okay, good. Last question before we close for today.
It's a mixture of comment and question, maybe to everybody here in the community. What I found is that what Khaled have developed so beautiful and so deep could be true for any personality system. So, for example, in my organization, we use a lot insights discovery, and what I found is based on that system, it's very much the same. Depending on the level of maturity and the stages, the personality type show up very different based off the grown nature.
That's very, very true, Christiane. And again, it is the human condition changing with the cognitive complexity and cognitive capacity. The way, whatever part of the human psyche we are looking at, be it behavioral, be it psychological, be it spiritual, will always be shifting and changing to adapt to the cognitive complexity that they are standing at. But for me, as you saw in my first slide, I've gone through so many models and so many sciences in my life that I really never found anything as deep inside the human core as the Enneagram. You see, it can take you from just some behavior on the surface all the way to your existential meaning. So usually in Enneagram conferences, I've presented the existential meaning behind each type and compared it to what in the Sufi tradition are called the beautiful names of Allah. So you find that actually each type is an archetype that presents a facet of the divine. It's as if the 8 is representing the power of the divine. The 2 is presenting the love and nurturing and abundance of the divine. The 5 is presenting the omniscience and of the divine. The 6 is presenting this care and security of the divine. So it's as if we are facets of the divine. So the Enneagram can show you so many levels of depth depending on where you want to plug in. You might want to stop at personality. I never recommend that because it becomes a big problem. It becomes a labeling and judging tool. At least go to the psychological level where you see the inner child wounds, you know, the shadows, you know, the problems with the masculine energy, the problems with the feminine energy, the ways we create harmony in our life. All these are described by the Enneagram on a psychological level. And then, of course, in relationships, it's an extremely powerful tool. So yes, Christiane, you're totally right. It's just that the Enneagram is more comprehensive. It gives so many different levels of viewing the person, the individual. I've put my website and email for those who would like to contact me for more information.
Khaled, is your program recorded?
Yes. What I have an online course platform where all the courses, once we take the session, it is within 72 hours put on this platform and it stays there for a whole year. So if you miss a session, you can always go back to it. And on the platform, we add lots of resources, references, videos, lots of other stuff that we cannot cover in the 4 hours. I mean, just as a tip, when I started, I used to have 7-hour sessions. And then going into online, I initially started with 7, but people would like be totally exhausted from me. So I went down to 5 and then I went down to 4. And I'm now keeping it 4 and covering up the rest through the portal. I call it the course portal, and through Q&A, lots of meetings outside the sessions with myself or with my facilitators and assistants.
Thank you. Khaled, I'm actually at the moment a student of Integral Coaching Canada and enrolled in their Master Coach module, where we use both levels of consciousness, spiral dynamics, and the Enneagram. So I'm very familiar with this. So I might want to sort of skim through the first sessions, but I find you teach this in another way than I usually have learned about the Enneagram. It's very interesting way, and I really think you've into something really deep here, combining the two. And so for me, it seems like you're on another level than most of what I've seen. So I'm very interested in your program.
Thank you so much. It's really kind of you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Paul, for your compliment on the chat.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Khaled. It shows that you've done a lot of research on all this, and very happy that you want to share this today with us. We will provide the video to those that couldn't join, and so your contact details are in the chat. And yeah, again, thank you very much. And thanks everybody
for attending. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really blessed to be here with the community. And I must say, I discovered Value Match recently in the last IEC. And I think I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed to have discovered the courses I've taken with you, Oka, have with you and John have moved me definitely to a different layer of understanding of the spiral. So thank you so much for what you provide to the world, Oka.
Oh yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it looks like we will be exploring this part in the future more on, you know, the integration between spiral and Enneagram. At the moment I don't really know what format, but I think it's quite interesting for most of us. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.